Awesome. Cool. So we are live. Great. So, how this will go is if you have any questions at all, you'll just go ahead and ask. Or if you just want to say hi or anything, feel free. This is the first call. So, really, this is just the first time doing this. So, there's really no rules as of yet. So, feel free to just go ahead and ask your questions right away, and I'll try to answer as many as possible. And we'll make it a good call today. Share a lot of value. So it looks like, Emmanuel, your question is, as an agency account partner, how would you go about contacting Facebook for disabled ad accounts, even if an internal Facebook rep also can't get a response? Yeah. So in these cases, it's really just best to, uh, one, submit the request whenever they ask you, if it's for the ad account. The second thing is to make sure that you have reviewed policy and that you know you didn't violate anything. And right now, given that we're in December, it's going to take longer than 48 hours usually for them to get back to you. But specifically, as soon as they do get back, they should automatically approve it if you haven't violated any policy. But if this is like a recurring issue where you keep getting your ad account locked, I'd recommend, we have a video on this, watching the video on how to, not get your ad account banned. And that's really just about uploading your ID to make sure that you actually verify your profile on Facebook. And once you do that, that's really going to allow you to make sure that you don't have any issues moving forward. But specifically, if it's with a credit card issue and you're having a card issue and that's why your account's getting locked, then you should probably either switch cards or use a different payment method. Hello, everybody. And then owned agency, OND. How to get more qualified leads for webinar. I got them for 10 cents each on my landing page, but I don't know how to make them more qualified. Okay. Yeah, so that's a great question. Definitely a good question here. So specifically, if you want to get more qualified leads in this case, you're getting a lot of them. It sounds like 10 cents. That's like, really low cost. So that's great. But if you specifically want to get a much higher quality, you should start using UTM and URL parameters in your ads. And you should have a form like with ConvertFlow that tracks that UTM or URL parameter. So that way you can actually optimize based off what's quality and what's not. Specifically, what ends up happening is if you have a ad, you can actually title that ad creative, title the audience, title the campaign. And as soon as somebody submits their email to sign up for the webinar, it gives you those URL parameters. You then take the URL parameters and identify which people are actually qualified. So whichever step you have after that landing page, if those people, purchase or they schedule a call, whoever you deem is qualified, you would actually see which URL parameter they came from, which ad, which audience specifically, and then you optimize your ad account results based off your URL and UTM parameters versus optimizing it based off lowest cost. That way you increase your quality. We've seen substantial increases in quality that way. I was blocked from advertising. Does Facebook block your IP? Yeah, they can block your IP. That is very common. I mean, if there's been enough issues there, sometimes they'll just completely IP ban you. Trying to make a new ad account and the new ad account is blocked too, but I think it's because I haven't verified my ID. Yeah, that's definitely a likely reason why. A lot of times Facebook just wants to know who you are. They want to trust you. Really any social media platform, if you provide your email, provide your contact information, verify your identity, verify that your business is a legitimate business, they'll trust you. And they're a lot less inclined to actually lock your ad account or lock your actual profile because they know who you are and they can usually just get it sorted out. And if you didn't violate policy, you're not going to have any issues at all. Yes, happy to see all of you as well. This is the first live call, so it's super exciting. How can I test new creatives without messing up learning phase? Yeah, that's a great question. So one, you can launch a new audience and test creatives, or two, you can exit learning phase with your best creatives. And then after you exit with the 50 conversions, you can actually launch creatives into those and not really worry about it because the audience is going to be so tuned that each time you launch creative in there, learning is not going to be impacted because it's going to exit each time, just given that you've already exited learning the first. Ben, to test interest, do you suggest CBO or ABO? Uh, Definitely an ABO. Always go on ad set for testing initially, and then switch over to CBO later on. Dennis, what is the ideal audience size for lookalikes and custom audiences for conversions? Lookalikes, I'd say over 1 million at least. And then custom audiences for conversions. For retargeting, I mean, there's really no specific custom size per se. I would say the larger your audience gets, like if you have an audience size of like add to carts that are like over 1,000, you should actually start segmenting at that point. You might as well go from like a 30-day add to cart to having another audience that's like a 7-day add to cart. And then if you're getting more than 1,000 add to carts in the last 7 days, then you should have a 3-day add to cart. So that way, specifically, you're actually getting a lot more conversions, because what you'll find is if your add to cart audience is getting too big in terms of custom, like over 1,000, and you're optimizing for lowest cost conversions, here's the big problem that people find. The system is built to actually optimize for lowest cost. So if somebody adds the cart today, the pixel and algorithm might actually not show your ad to them today, even though that would probably be highly relevant to do so. If somebody added to cart and they left like 15 minutes later and on social media, you would want them to see that ad. So they would go back and finish what they were doing. But it doesn't work like that. They might show it to somebody who's 30 days old because they think that that person will convert based off their behavior. So really, if you segment down to like shorter time periods, you're actually forcing the algorithm to find the best person who's going to convert within a shorter time period. So that way they actually see the ad just right after adding to cart, which is a lot more impactful, and we see much greater ROAS because of it. Eddie, how can we scale fast? Scaling fast, that has a lot of different answers. I would recommend scaling no more than 20% so you don't interrupt learning. But if you're at like 5 daily or $10 daily, which is like just starting out, you're totally fine to double budgets then. I wouldn't worry too much about it. If you're at 25 daily, you're fine to go up to 50 daily. It's not a big deal initially. I mean, you're going to reset learning, but if you think about it, you probably wouldn't have exited learning to begin with just at those budgets. So it's actually okay to double and play with budgets there. But the moment you pass $50 daily, it's a good time to actually start applying the 20% rule. Awesome. And by the way, if y'all are enjoying, this live content or video, just make sure to like it, just so that way I know. Renee Bardem, how are your CPMs December? 50% increase. Yeah. So a lot of people are seeing increases right now. Some are more drastic than others. The best way to combat your CPMs are actually by a lot of things. There's actually 11 things that Facebook lists as ways to combat your CPMs. One of those is your audience targeting. You can make your audience size bigger. That'll help. Another one is having ad creatives that apply to more placements. If you're using video, you're probably going to be paying higher CPMs. So if you have more ad formats, that'll lower CPMs. Another thing to lower CPMs is removing audience overlap. A lot of people have a lot of audience overlap. So if you remove that, that'll fix it. Another thing is auction competition. If you're seeing auction competition, then that means that some other advertisers outperforming your ads and winning bids over you. So you have to essentially get out of that by going after a different audience or just expanding it. The other thing is the country location. If you're targeting a country that's outside of the US and is much smaller, then that's one of those things where you can lower your CPMs by either consolidating or adding in additional countries, or opting out of countries that really have high CPMs. Another thing is your offer. If your offer is not really good, your CPMs are going to be higher. So I mean, there's a lot of things that play into it. So it is typical for a lot of people to see increases right now, but there are things to do about it. I mean, it's not something that you have to deal with. There are definitely ways that you can actually lower it. And we cover these steps a lot of times in our class. All right, let's see here. And is it common to struggle with advertising through Q4? I wouldn't say, yeah. I mean, it's common for a lot of advertisers to struggle through Q4. You don't have to be a victim of it. There are things you can do. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely things that are happening. I mean, like you had to deal with the political spin. There's Black Friday, Cyber Monday. You had to deal with advertisers coming in there. You have to deal with, Christmas spend, Christmas products, people who are just giving out like 75% off, which like, a lot of times who compete with a 75% off deal when that wipes out your margin. So totally get that perspective. Uh, so yeah, I mean, some people and a lot of people, it is fairly common to struggle with Q4, and Q1 is going to be, that's usually when the time that all advertisers peel back their spend. So going into Q1, you should definitely expect, if you choose to run ads, then if you apply like our best practices and follow the steps of what we teach in our classes, then you'll really see great results because it's really built for long term. And after getting through this period, it's going to be phenomenal how many results are actually going to be able to come from this, and the next couple of weeks after we get past the holidays. Bulgaria is a small country, so 1% LLA is 40K. Yeah, so what I recommend to people who are in smaller countries, we have over 23 different countries, or more than 23 now, of people in our class who've actually paid and signed up. We have people all over the world, and we have people in countries that are really small. Some of them have country sizes smaller than 10 million. And so a lot of times we have different protocols for that. It's you wouldn't start with the 1% because it is too small. You're going to burn out your audience really quickly. 40,000 is extremely small. You always want audience sizes over 1 million. So whatever percentage that adds up to, try to get it there. And then even in some cases, if your country size is indeed smaller than 10 million, you should almost always opt for no audiences at all. It sounds pretty extreme, but I wouldn't even target an audience, just given that you should purely be focusing on your creative and appealing to your audience without a doubt. Facebook still keeps rejecting and banning account after election without any reason. Yeah, that's really common. Facebook won't give a reason in most cases, if never. They don't disclose that. So the best thing to do is just watch our video on how to get an ad account unlocked, and just make sure your profile is verified and you've uploaded your business information, and make sure you do all that correctly. Why is your Facebook course very expensive? Yeah, that's a great question. The reason we charge $3,800 or $5,000 if you decide to pay over monthly installments, which does make it more affordable, but it's the price is primarily there because of my time personally. The reason you don't see my face on YouTube, or a lot of times you don't see me as a whole, and you're really just getting the snippets of what's coming from the class, is because people have paid for my time specifically. So it's not a course where you're doing it on your own per se. We have content in there you can watch videos on, modules that is totally different than what you're seeing on my YouTube. But specifically, I get on calls with everybody in our class. So that pricing there is really just to make sure that I can dedicate my time to you guys and really give you all the most value as possible. And because of that, we have incredible results from people in the class because they get so much attention on their account. Some people get 10 to 40 hours of dedicated time from me specifically. And every minute I spend on an account, we cover an extremely a lot amount of time. And we've helped people go from spending $0 just joining, and now they're spending about $5,500 daily on ads, just because they've had the attention on the account, not because they didn't know what to do, but because they were navigating into certain situations they haven't experienced before, and I was able to be there as a guide in that situation. So the pricing is really, once again, strictly for my time. And then the added bonus is going to be the class that you're getting with it. So that's the answer to that one. And then how do you think the lawsuit will affect advertisers? I mean, so many different things are always going on with Facebook and stuff. This has been happening for years, and it'll probably continue to happen. I couldn't tell you the specific outcome of what it's going to be. But I mean, Zuck has testified the most out of anybody else. And, they're not just looking at Facebook, they're looking at other conglomerates as well. So, I mean, if you're running Google ads, if you're running any other ads, I mean, it's fairly typical for this to be going on. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't worry too much about it, but definitely always interesting to see, what progress is being made. A lot of times it just comes down to a payment that these big corporations have to end up paying, which isn't, the worst thing for advertisers, because it doesn't actually impact what, is going on in that situation. The only time it does actually start to get in the way is if they are choosing to remove placements, like with Apple, and choosing to interrupt the third-party placements. That was a big deal, closing off barriers. But we're pretty innovative in the sense of knowing how to get around these things, like developing data tracking codes and actually understanding how to get people to opt for specific things, so you can still do the things you once did before. So if anything does come of it, and certain placements get taken away, or if there's certain breakups that happen, there's always going to be innovation that happens to further impact results and carry the torch forward. So I wouldn't worry too much about it, but definitely always interesting to see what's going on in the space. I'm stuck on ads. Creative help, Marcin. Yeah, we have tons of videos to watch on how to come up with more ideas for creative. I would definitely recommend the Facebook ad library. That's a good place to go. I would try to find somebody who's like the top person in your space and really go look at their ads, and then look at a lot of different ads, even people who aren't in your space, but that are really successful. And not per se like influencer type deals, but actually looking at large brands and corporations and seeing how their ads are structured. You're going to notice a very common thing in between all of them. So yeah. By the way, everybody, if y'all do enjoy this video, I would really appreciate it if y'all just let me know by liking. It does make a difference, especially me doing this. Love the new mic setup. Yeah. Thank you, Lucas. I think we had quite a few people say something about the sound quality. So here we are. I have not advertised on TikTok or Snapchat specifically. We do run ads on Google. We do run ads on YouTube. We have people in our actual Facebook ads class running ads on all of the platforms. And there are strategies at play that we do employ. So, whenever you run ads on TikTok, you're going to get a surge of actual, traffic, which can, be really low quality in the sense of actually hurting your lookalikes. So there's a lot of things we do in the class to show ways that we can actually make sure that we segment data. So we start building lookalikes based off specific UTMs and parameters coming from the different platforms. So there's a strategy that is employed for each. And then there's one overall holistic view that we look at to make sure that we make sure the audiences don't get diluted. So that way it's more effective for advertisers to run across all platforms. We're doing this right now with somebody in the class, and they're getting about a 12x ROAS, and they're spending a few $1,000s a day now, and they were never near that spend daily, but they've become $1 million business because of it, and they're running ads on all these platforms because they're taking advantage of the low CPMs and insane amount of traffic that's there. But the strategy wasn't working for them initially until they implemented these things. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of stuff to do there, but I would definitely highly recommend understanding ways to segment those things to prevent your quality from getting diluted. Thank you. I'm glad you all love the content. Will this video be live later? Potentially. I don't know what actually happens after the live video. If it allows it to be published, I'm sure we'll get it up. If not, then it's exclusive now. How to do audience test? I would just segment the audiences just one by one. That's a recommended approach there. So that way, from a data standpoint, you can analyze which ones are working. Thanks. Great content, by the way. Thank you. Please give it a like if so. What are your results with the conversion API server side? Yeah, we're seeing great results with the conversion API, especially on Shopify or using other softwares or even our own integrations where we do it. We get a lot better results because we can, you're not having to worry about cookies. You don't have to worry about that at all. And your match rates with your audience, which is essentially how Facebook matches a user one-to-one. A lot of times people don't know this, but when somebody visits your site, Facebook doesn't know who you are always anymore. There's a lot of things that have already been put in place. Apple's already prevented a lot of this. And over the course of the last few years, this has already taken a toll on, results. And most people don't even really understand what's going on, but you actually don't know who the person is these days when they hit your site immediately. So to get around that, there's a few things you can do. It's like, if you capture their emails, if you capture their phone number, that's how Facebook can actually match it to a profile. And with lookalikes, the only way they're successful is if they know who they're building a lookalike off of. If you're uploading lists or uploading custom audiences or anything like that, it's already, not going to be doing any good. Those are much lower match rates, and usually the data isn't even appropriately scripted there. So if you're uploading those and you're seeing results, then you're really going to see results if you take a different approach with an API. And so match rates will go up if you actually use better tracking than just the standard pixel. And a lot of people don't know that, and it's really a cool subject. Thank you for all the value. Thank you. I appreciate it. We try really hard over here. And then Dennis, is it better to have 1 to 2 campaigns with 4 ad sets in each, or is it okay to have more campaigns with 1 to 2 ad sets? We really try not to create too many campaigns. We really just try to segment by a few specific groups, and then really just have more ad sets underneath, and then choose which ad sets to keep based off performance. Any tips on Facebook ads for SaaS business digital products? Yeah, there's lots of tips there. If you have a specific question on like what you'd be interested in, I mean, software as a service, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with subscriptions and stuff and just recurring payments because they stack on each other. I mean, we see a lot of great results with companies who have subscription or services because each client you bring in and keep and retain, it stacks, revenue on top, and then the profit, the margin of that increases with it. So that's really nice. So yeah, I mean, the tips there would be to really establish what your, creative is going to be and what you're going to be, the offer is going to be, because that's how you're going to be weighed on the actual algorithm formula. The advertiser bids chosen through your offer and your, actual spend and bid type. It doesn't even take into account your audience. It actually doesn't care. So I wouldn't worry too much about the audience side. I'd focus more on where you're going to go with it. Are there Facebook utilities that do allow ads that we don't know about? Are there Facebook? Well, I don't know what that says. Sorry, Mickey, if you can rephrase that question. Lucas, do you have financing on your course? I only have about 5K. Yeah, we do. We have a $9.97 a month payment plan. And once again, if you join it and you decide to cancel your plan, you actually have that option. We don't hold you up for that. So, I mean, if you end up taking it for a month and you decide to cancel, that's totally fine. It's your choice. And in that case, it would only cost you $9.97 to do so. So, you would definitely be able to get in on it. So our financing option is the $9.97 by 5 months. The other option is $3,800. It's a one-time payment. It does save you about 23%. So it is nicer, and you get a full year of calls with me. We do these calls like this. This is the first time that, we've had one on YouTube, but we actually do these every single week. We do 2 of them a week, and they go, that's over 4 hours a week just alone, and being able to go through this. And to take it a step even further, we actually share screens and stuff. So yeah, if you want to join, just if you go to Facebook ads, if you go to my site and then go to our course section, you'll be able to do that. My brands only sell to, where'd that comment go? Oh, Lachan Thompson, my brands only sell to Australians at the moment. Okay, perfect. We have a lot of people who sell in Australia. I'm averaging almost 10x across 8 accounts. That's awesome, phenomenal. But I'm worried when I scale to 200 to 500, I'll burn through audience fast. Yeah, that's a very common thing, especially whenever you're averaging a high return ad spend and stuff like that. It is very easy to start burning through audiences. I think the next thing would really be to focus on audience sizes at that point, and using the inspect tool. If you haven't already, the inspect tool is incredible. It allows you to know the overlaps. It allows you to know the auction competition. So yeah. Bro, you truly exclude the law of reciprocity. I don't know that word, but sounds good. Thank you. Where I can buy your courses, chasechappell.com/Facebook-ads-program. If you go there, you're going to get not only our course, you'll get trainings, you're going to get calls with me. We provide an outstanding amount of value, so it's definitely worth the cost in every means. I know it is pricey for some, but it's strictly there just because of the amount of one-on-one attention we put. We're not like other online classes or courses where you're paying and you're just sitting and seeing just a couple of videos that don't really provide value. We pour our hearts and souls out into the content in our actual class because you are paying for it, and you get a ton of advice and actual one-on-one, and you get to join our private community group. A lot of people don't know about our group, but we have a lot of respected business owners and people who are doing phenomenally well, and they are happy to share how they did it through what we've done so far. How many lookalikes can we put in an ad set? Oh, that's a great question. I guess you're referring to stacking in that case. Yeah. So I mean, you can put up to, I believe it's 50 as like what Facebook says, but I wouldn't do that. I would try no more than five. Really, we try to stick to three. Under five inside of one single one ad set. Where if you have a 1% purchase that's working, and 1% view content, and 1% add to cart, and like they're all getting incredible results, you could actually put all three of those 1% together and make it a 3%, and that's perfect. Or if you have five, which is like, maybe page view and initiate checkout, all five of those 1% would make a total up, hopefully, closer to a five. Um, those work well. I think the lighting is starting to add a glare here. I have to lower that here in a second. Let me know if that starts to bother anybody to sign up here. I can drop the blinds. Thanks for answering with ads library. Is it better to stack interests or create separated ad sets for each interest? Yeah. So there's a good approach there. Specifically, you want to test separating. And then the moment you start to see, say you have five ad sets, and across those five ad sets, you have, say, 10 purchases on each. That's a good indicator to stack all of those into one. And then you actually can scale that one up and exit learning. It's a really good approach. And sorry, this light's going to bother me because it's adding a glare. One moment here. Cool. That's much better. All right. How you test interest-based audience? We split them out across the board. That's usually the best targeting method that we end up finding. Should I use one ad account for a brand? Yes, absolutely. Always do that. You never want to add multiple brands into one single ad account. It disturbs the data. It interrupts the process. It really prevents the pixel from learning really efficiently. And not only that, if you have different websites running in your ad account, you can actually get you're at risk for banning, or multiple Facebook profiles. If you're using ads with different Facebook pages, that's considered circumventing systems on the policy, and that is against rules. So if anybody's doing that, I would definitely not do that. You should always have separate ad accounts. And if you don't have ad accounts, if you can't create more than one, or if you're limited, you can always go to support.facebook and try to contact if you're available, if they're able to. And if they're not, then all you got to do is just upload your business information to Facebook, and that's going to open up about access to a couple more. And then the moment you create ad accounts for those, it should start opening up after that. I believe we're over like, we can create like 80,000 or something, some ridiculous amount of ad accounts we now have access to, but it's purely to do with trust and time. So you have to make sure Facebook trusts you, and just be patient on that process. Is it correct that Facebook not allows to sell digital PDF? So there's different rules that come into play, and they always exit and change. So it's definitely always changing. It's definitely not against the rules to sell a digital ebook. I can't confirm on a PDF, but an ebook, we have people selling them, and they're doing phenomenal numbers in different countries and even in the US. So I wouldn't. We haven't seen any problems there. Haley, what do you recommend for the minimum seed audience size for lookalike audience? Definitely 1.2 million. If you're outside of the US, then definitely go for a higher percentage to get a better audience size. And if you do 1%, if they're like, for instance, somebody said earlier it was about 40K for them per 1% lookalike because of their country, you could do multiple 1% and just stack them just to get above that 1 million. So that'd be fine. Anything above a million, and the reason why is because you don't want to have auction overlap, and a lot of auction competition comes from the lower than 1 million. And you might find small audiences perform extremely well, and I'm sure a lot of people here can attest to the fact that they probably have 100,000 to 800,000 size audience, and it's one of their best ones. And that's totally normal. The only problem is if you ever decide to scale, or if you use that audience for a couple of weeks, eventually that audience will run out because it's so finite in its size. So we always like to, really find large audiences that convert well, because if you find a large audience that converts extremely well, you're really going to have a heyday, because now you have not only a large audience, but it's going to be able to run for a longer period of time. And you're going to be able to actually have a lot of leeway with it because you can scale because it actually has a large size. Why would my conversion number go down when I increase daily budgets by double? Probably increasing daily budgets by double. You want to scale at least staying under 20% or at 20%. 20% is like the max, really. When you're scaling, and then you want to be more steady about it. I wouldn't even do it daily. I would really try to press you to stay at least 48 hours to 4 days out, because you have to keep in mind it has to stabilize and make sure it can even spend. And if you scale up in those little increments, what you'll find is as soon as you start to see your results trickling down, just scale back by that 20% again. And that's your sweet spot. Keep it there and just start looking for the next audience and creative. Don't even worry about scaling that one anymore because it's probably just going to be a diminished return after that point. You would actually make more money keeping the budget smaller than you would scaling, because every time you scale, you're actually going to see a dramatic loss at that point. So there is a point of a diminished return by a significant amount. And it's always nice to keep an eye on it. Yeah. What is your thoughts on the United States government suing Facebook? Yeah, we were touching on this earlier. Specifically, once again with this, it's just it's always interesting to see how this ends up playing out. But a lot of times, it just results in Facebook having a fine. Other cases where they lose placements in certain areas for advertisers, and people just have to become more innovative on how they get around that. If anything severe was to happen, which I wouldn't, totally imagine it, but I wouldn't rule it out either, because we know it's happened in the past with, the Bell company and AT&T and stuff. But if you look at history, a lot of times when companies get sued or, broken up per se, because they've been a monopoly, almost always those companies actually end up coming back more successful than they were before. So I wouldn't worry too much about it right now. These types of things take time. There's a lot of stuff that has to go back and forth. I mean, I'm sure you see that Zuck's always, testifying before Congress almost. It seems like every other month he's up there with the other big names in the space, Amazon, Apple. Yes, Zuck has probably been up there the most. He actually has. But now you see Twitter and Jack Dorsey and all those people showing up there. So this is normal. This should be expected. They do have large companies. They are giant corporations. I mean, they're not small by any means, and they do control a lot. So it's reasonable to think that, the government's going to take a, say in this, which is totally fine. It should be, they should be questioned to some degree just to make sure everything is in check for people. But once again, as an advertiser, I wouldn't worry too much about it, just given because this stuff does happen pretty often. And most of the time it does result in a fine. And if it doesn't, we'll see what happens. What is your thoughts? Everyone remember to please like this video. Yes. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you, Dennis. Definitely appreciate that. That lets me know that y'all do like this. You said that lookalike audiences should be nearly 1 million. Not nearly. I would ideally want them to be over. If it's a little under, I mean, you might be able to get away with it, but I would definitely recommend above. What if a 1K is 540? You don't have to switch if you don't want to. I was just giving a good reason earlier that eventually that audience will lose out. It'll die off eventually. So it's always nice to have the larger audiences. So yeah, you should not switch, but maybe test the 2% to see, what is the performance difference. How to safely scale a winning ad? Can you 2x a budget? Do you vertically scale? Duplicate a campaign to scale? Lots of misinformation on this. Yeah, I totally agree with you. There's so much misinformation on scaling, and it's absolutely insane. I've heard of the craziest things like duplicating the same ad set like 10 times. That was the most insane thing I'd ever heard or seen. The other thing was taking your budget, like duplicating and going from like one budget and scaling it up to like a couple thousand. It was like, absolutely not. That is like, that might work for 2 days and then it's totally gone. I mean, sometimes they do work for people, but that it's not a long-term strategy. It's usually just leveraging like the most recent update where there's like a little gimmick you can get away with there. But what I would recommend is scaling vertically is keeping it 20% or 20% under. There's actually a tool where you can choose to have the audience scale based off your result, and it would automatically do it. It actually calculates it down to a penny. There is a tool for that for scaling, and we covered that in our class. But for you, for now, you could just do the math if you're not in there. Who did you learn Facebook ads from? Obviously, a lot on your own in the ads manager, but who are the people you learn from? Yeah, so I specifically don't follow any people in this space. Uh, I've been doing this for over 5 years now, and we have access to over 200 ad accounts. We work with large data sets. So I'm not speaking from like personal experience with like one single ad account or, I had an e-commerce store, or, those stories you hear online. I've been doing this for quite a while, and we work with so many different businesses and so many different industries, and we have access to a plethora of ad accounts. It's unreal. We work with Fortune 100 companies. So uh, I learned through our team. We have people on our team who, have access and are managing these accounts that we work on. And then just over the years, you end up acquiring the knowledge and keeping up with policy and stuff like that. You can pretty much learn a lot of stuff from Facebook in that sense. It does take a lot of time because you spend a lot of time there, which is why in our class we try to, cut through a lot of that noise there and just consolidate the information. So that way it's just easy to know. When you stack when you stack good ad set together, do you pause others and just work with stacked? Yeah, always. Here's the part though. A lot of people trick this up. As soon as they stack them, they don't turn off their other ad sets out of hesitation because they might have like a 5x or like, a 3x and they feel like they have great results. But I can assure you, if you just give it 4 days to 7 days, just allow the stack to run without those other ones, it'll eventually start to pass it on, the fourth, sixth, and seventh day. Don't look at the average over those 7 days because it's going to be, it's almost always looks like it's lower. But if you actually run it one day at a time, looking at the most recent time frame, you're going to see your ROAS going up. It's going to be like 1.2, 2.3, and then 3.1, and then 4.5. But if you look at the average, it's like, oh, we've only done a 2.6. This isn't any better off. And they go back to the old method. But if you just look at the daily average, it's actually trending up. And most people don't actually realize that. So we go over a lot of data analysis tools and like ways to catch things that aren't being seen in our class. So yeah, that's definitely a good way to do it, is run it day by day to actually see where your things going. And there's a tool in Facebook that actually allows you to chart analysis and do trend lines and bars graphs. It's a really cool tool. It does take a little bit of learning to do, but Facebook provides it inside of the actual ad account. Most people don't know how to access it. It's just it's all through reporting though. Why would Facebook Pixel? Whoa, there's a lot of comments that just came through. Why would Facebook Pixel dashboard only display 30 days? Just from data, it's a lot of data for them to store. You might think that it's Facebook, so they should always track the full length of time, but they do have to call it at some point, and 30 days is just their thing. And now in ad accounts, they're actually deleting data after 5 years, and I'm sure it's going to move forward as more advertisers come on. So the best way to get around this is to have your own actual events tracker outside of Facebook Pixel, your custom events tracking, so that way you can keep a history of all of your events over time. So we cover these things, and it's definitely a good way to see the full length of your audiences. That way you don't get limited by only being able to visualize 30 days. Is my username the same on Clubhouse? Two P's and two L's, so Chase, and then Chappell, Chappell. So if you're looking for me on Clubhouse, yeah, that's what it is. I've noticed you don't like dynamic creative ads. No, it's not that I don't like dynamic creative ads. We use them in some cases, but it's particularly the approach that most people use them, which is why it might come off as that we don't like them. It's usually because dynamic creative ads are highly misinterpreted and used in ways that aren't really effective. For one, you're not stacking your social proof. It's really not doing anything there. Dynamic creative can allow you to test really quickly and find out what works, but it's important to take the best variants and run with those so you can stack your social proof. So that's really important. I thought this was a clickbait notification. Thanks for the advice. I've been learning a lot from you. Wow. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Stacking audiences is amazing if you want to scale. Before Black Friday, I scaled a campaign over 5K a day with pretty stable results. Nice. That's awesome. Good job. How you test interest-based audience. We answered this question earlier, just keeping things in singles. Any good companies you can recommend for creative? Well, I mean, it also does depend on which companies you're looking at, but I mean, like, just what you could do is Facebook provides case studies, go to Facebook business case studies, just do a quick Google search, click on business case studies, and they're going to tell you the audiences and the creatives that these companies run. Most people, once again, don't even know this, but you can actually see other advertisers' audiences. Most people go to Facebook ad library to see the creatives. Well, if you go to Facebook business success stories, you're going to see the audiences too. So if anybody didn't know that, there you go. Yep, like an archive, definitely. Are the recordings of the previous Q&A calls included in the course? Yeah, we have hundreds of calls. There's I think 300 something recordings that have never been released on YouTube. We have too much content, and I was putting it out daily, but we ended up just peeling it back because there's just too much content we have. So, I mean, that's not a bad thing either. It just means that there's a lot to watch in the actual class. So yeah, you can access they're 2-hour calls, and there's hundreds of them. There's so much. You can see from when we started and some people when they joined and how their business went from, zero to actually generating 3 million a year. We have people who are just doing, 100,000 that are absolutely thrilled because they took their handcrafting business and turned it into something. So we have different things for everyone, and we have lead-based businesses. A lot of people say it looks like your content's only e-commerce. The reason we're only putting out e-commerce content is just that seems where most of the attention is being gained right now. But we have lots of people who are in the class that are B2B, going after leads and stuff like that too. So we don't cover an industry topic. We actually cover data and looking at analytics in the algorithm. We're purely looking at how things work and understanding that approach because it can be universally applied anywhere. You don't get pigeonholed into one-off strategy like most of these other individuals are covering. My personal account is restricted from advertising across several business managers. It's been 5 days. I've requested appeal. Yeah, right now it's a busy season. There's lots of advertisers having this issue. It's just a patient game right now. You got to wait at least, it could take up to 14 days we've seen. So next year, if this is happening around Q1, it'll probably be within an hour. They're just backlogs. So these people are having to review a lot. They have a lot on their plate right now. When you say scale vertically, yep, increasing, it doesn't have to be by 20%. It can be by 5%, 3%, 1%, 10%. Just staying under 20 is going to be best so you don't interrupt the learning too much. I have 5x my ads just by watching all his Chase Chappell YouTube channel. Yeah, that's awesome. We get a lot of people who say they got a lot of cool results, and I really appreciate it. It's super awesome to see everybody's stuff growing, and I really appreciate people sharing their testimonials with us. It's super cool to see that. I share them with people on our team. Everybody loves them. We have lots of people who are keeping an eye on this per se and aren't commenting, but are actually seeing a lot of the stuff that's going on. And, a lot of people in the space are really happy with the fact that there's a lot of stuff like this happening. So yeah, I can't wait for you to purchase our online class either. I would definitely appreciate and excited to see you in there because whatever you 5X now, we could probably 5X it some more. James Price, thank you. Yeah, no problem. I appreciate you joining. And by the way, anybody, if y'all really like this content or if you even remotely found any value at all, I would really appreciate if you just give this video a like. It does help out. Just given, the value exchange here, I'd really appreciate it. So yeah. When do you recommend using expanded reach in LLA? So there's detailed targeting expansion and there's lookalike targeting expansion. You can use them if you're actually under 1 million audience. That's when we recommend to use them. Looks like this glare is coming back here again. And with lookalike expansion, you can also use it if it's under 1 million, or you can test it without. We typically recommend based off audience size because we like to know the data. But it's always worth a test. We've had people in our class who've seen outstanding results having it selected. Others get better without. So it does depend. And it's still a new tool. So, we're still doing research and running studies across all of our accounts to really get a confirmed answer on that. Just imagine how much value you get from his course. Yeah, absolutely. We try to give as much as possible. How did you test with Facebook shopping stores? Yes, we have, and we're seeing incredible results with the Facebook store. There's one drawback that we're seeing, though. It is important to note. You're not, right now, as our knowledge is that you can't get access to the emails of these people right now. So, if you're getting people to buy on your shop, you're not getting the data. And in today's age, building your list and emails and that stuff is incredibly valuable. But here's the flip side to it. If you are getting a ROAS of 2x right now, and then you switch to the store and you're getting a 10x ROAS, that probably has a profound impact on your profitability. And some business owners might opt for just going after profits and being fine with Facebook keeping the data, but you being able to leverage the audiences, of course. You might not have the list on the email, but you're getting, a 10x. Whereas if you had the list, you might only gain maybe a 3 to 5x in repeat purchases, right? Which that's valuable because there's a lot of things you can do with it. But if you do opt for the stores, you might see a much higher ROAS. It's important to note, though, that organizing your shopping store in a specific way through Facebook is really important to make sure you get a high return on ad spend, just as much as the creative as well. Are you hiring? Where do I apply? Yeah, we're always hiring. We're definitely a growing agency. There's constant opportunities always coming about. We've launched 2 new departments in our agency. So yeah, if you go to chappellcapital.com or chappelldigitalmarketing.com, there should be a section that says hiring. If not, then scroll all the way to the bottom, submit a contact form saying you're interested in applying. And then if you don't get a response, don't assume that we've ignored you. We have a lot of submissions every single day. We have a lot of people reaching out. So to increase your chances of us being able to see your stuff, make sure you give us a lot about you, what accounts you've worked on, case studies of your stuff, and try to reach out at least once a month. We found that increases the chances of people getting onto our team substantially. Just being really, persistent about it, that'll really help. Will you upload soon? New video for Facebook ads or for beginners? Yes. We've been super busy on our end with a lot that's going on, just helping people in our class and really at the agency and helping accounts scale, just given it's Q4 and we're really focused on our clients. So yeah, we do plan to get on videos out. We have hundreds of them backlogged that we just haven't released them. We got to get around to doing it. So yeah, I totally agree with you. We definitely want to put out another one. Clarifying, any companies you can recommend for creating custom creatives that you had success with? Once again, you could go to Facebook Business Success Stories. In order to become a success story, you have to have had a lot of spend on your account. Like, most of those success stories have spent well over $1 million on ads, and they show you the creative. That was the result of that. So you can learn a lot from that. Is it possible to fatigue your lookalike audience? Oh, it's definitely possible. You can fatigue a lookalike audience relatively quickly. Yeah, for sure. The best thing to do there is either refresh your creatives or expand the size. Recommendations for advertising e-commerce products with higher ticket prices and therefore less data. Recommendations for advertising an e-commerce product with higher ticket prices and therefore less data. I actually see that as a good thing. I mean, higher priced e-commerce items do really well. They have really high return on ad spend. You could opt for a value campaign. If you're working with less data, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a drawback. If anything, you should just find the pockets of where there is a lot of data, whether that's a higher funnel metric or if it's testing interest audience just to build that up. If a client ad account gets disabled, even after review, what's the best way to start another ad account? As it's saying we cannot create one for that business, Alex. You can't keep the pixel. And 2, if they don't approve it the first time and they actually do disable, and then you appeal and they disable entirely, and then there's no more appeals left for you, if you create another ad account, it's going to be considered circumventing systems with Facebook, which I hate to say it means that you could risk banning your actual business manager. Facebook doesn't really like advertisers creating other ad accounts to get around the one that just got banned. So I would definitely recommend staying away from that. I would highly recommend getting your business manager verified with your business information and then doing it on your profile as well, your personal one. That'll make a huge difference overall and will definitely increase your chances of getting that account that's already, second disabled locked, getting it actually approved. And if you choose to create another ad account at that point, your chances of it getting locked are substantially lowered. Can you explain Facebook stores? We just covered that one. You have to have a catalog to set it up and have to make sure your products get approved. Only some advertisers have access to the shop. The quickest way to do it is go to your business manager, find the actual e-commerce tab in there. Access your store, make sure you do all of the steps it tells you to. You'll go integrate it, you'll connect your catalog, and then you can run a test on there. There's actually a way to have 90% of your spend go to your website and 10% of your spend actually get diverted to your Facebook store, because you can actually see if that Facebook store works. And if you do integrate it, you actually might get contacted by Facebook for a free $5,000 that they're willing to spend on your ad account. We've had lots of clients get this after they completed these steps, is where Facebook actually credited them $5,000 to run, a test in their account, which is really cool. Wow, value. Thank you, crypto. What do you think about Facebook ad break? Yeah, doesn't seem there's much content on this. Facebook is paying crazy CPM on viral videos. Do you know anyone in this space? I don't know if I know the question here. Do I know anyone in this space on viral, paying CPM on viral videos? Yeah, I don't think I understand the question if you want to rephrase it. Will verifying your business on Facebook increase your ROAS significantly? I wouldn't say significantly, but you are going to see better costs per se in terms of your ad delivery. Most advertisers pay a higher delivery if Facebook doesn't trust them, because they don't want to risk sending your ad out to a lot of other users on the platform and it be not be a legit company or something. So they actually slow delivery in that case. So if you have a verified domain, you have a verified business manager, you have a verified Facebook profile, your ads are actually going to get opted for first choice. Thanks for the content, man. Wish I could afford the course. We have payment options that are on the more affordable side. If you want to go check those out, feel free. Do you know the best way to share Pixel just in case ad account gets blocked? No, there's currently not a good way to do that. If anything, it's going to violate policy. So unfortunately, if your pixel gets locked, your pixel gets locked, which it's not the best. But what you could do is, if you have the verified domain, you will actually have a better chance of getting only your ad account locked and your pixel actually stays active because you verified the domain. So that way, Facebook doesn't think that you're just stealing data from sites. So if you verify the domain, not as an SSL, which is a good thing to do, but if you do it through Facebook, there's actually a setting called domains, and you verify it, complete the steps. You actually risk your ad account, but you don't actually have to worry about your pixel getting locked up. So that's always great. Okay. What's the next question here? Thanks for content. Okay, yeah. How do you find audiences used by competitors in Facebook? Success stories? So in order to see the audiences, whenever you're on the Facebook success stories, scroll down to the portion where it shows the ad, and on the paragraph right next to it, there's going to be a spot saying this advertiser targeted these audiences to have success. And it's going to say it might say an interest audience where it's they targeted the football audience, and that audience was generating a 30% better return for them with this creative. Or it might say something like they used a 1% lookalikes of their customers from their list. And it's like, that tells you right there, customer list, 1%, same thing for the interest. It'll tell you straight up. It might even say they retargeted 30-day website visitors. So you can find the audiences that way. It's a really cool method to see what was working for them. Do you have an SOP for dynamic product ads? We have videos on dynamic product ads. I believe one of our higher trending videos is on dynamic specifically. And then if you actually end up accessing our class content, there's a lot of videos on dynamic that we cover. We actually have a search tool that if you type in these things, it pulls up the exact portion of the video. So that's always nice. Chase, how do you handle the organization of clients under your BM? Business manager? Do you have an ad account for each client? Yes, we do have an ad account for each client. But we don't create the ad accounts. We actually have them share it. We don't want to really create anything for our client in terms of the pixel or anything like that. We want them to retain full ownership. It's best to do that for small businesses and business owners. They should always retain the rights to all of the stuff they create because they'll need that stuff for the future and that data. And as an agency, you really want to keep those things separate. You want them to create everything and share it to you because it's their assets. It's not your assets. So you don't want to treat it like it's yours. I've seen a lot of agencies try to keep all that stuff and claim it's theirs, but it's actually not a good practice to do so. It's definitely not right. You should always allow them to retain full ownership. And it's always a headache later if you do it the other way. So just make sure to request access from them and them share it to you as a partner, not as never have them share you as a user on their stuff. Always have them share you as a partner because it's one click for them to remove everything. Whereas if they give you email access to everything, they're going to have to do a ton of steps on their side. So just from a client perspective, it's always nicer to make it simpler for them, create less steps and keep it more organized in that sense. And they're going to feel a lot more comfortable and trust you a lot more because of it. It's always a good business practice to do that. Interesting. How do you verify the domain? Under business settings, I don't know. I couldn't say out the exact steps right now. I can't think of, the exact which ones it's under. We have these steps in our class. But if you just go try to search for it in domains or search it in the Facebook thing, it should pop up somewhere. Thanks, Chase. When clients are sharing assets with me, it says you need to comply with guidelines for several weeks. When clients are sharing assets with me. Okay, yeah. So there's a 15-day hold period on Facebook pages. There's a hold period on the Pixel and stuff like that. There's a scaling period that's being held on the ad account. You can get away from all those things just by reaching out to support, letting them know that you're going to be getting more ad accounts, you're going to be working with more clients, tell them your situation, and they'll actually do custom things for you, like actually remove those parameters and actually give you access. We work heavily with Facebook, and they're always really receptive and very hearing to the things that we're looking to do, and they always do custom things in that situation. So we used to be blocked on spend and stuff, and you couldn't scale past a certain point or couldn't do certain features because we had access to things the day of. But now we don't have to worry about those things just because we actually reached out to them and asked for that specific thing. So just contact support, ask them. If you have a rep, even better. They'll be happy to help you with those things if your situation is true and telling. Thanks, Chase. When clients are okay, yep, read that one. Is there a valid reason why your retargeting ads may not work as well as a lookalike audience ad? I would say I would actually flip that. If you have a really good ad in a lookalike audience, it actually probably would work better in a retargeting. But if you have a really good retargeting ad, it's probably not going to work well in a cold audience. So it's kind of funny. It's a one-way street there that we see across all of the accounts. So yeah, I would just look at that. If you have a good ad, put it in your retargeting. If you have a good ad in retargeting, it's probably not going to work in cold, just from all the tests we've seen. Is this the slowest time of year for marketing on Facebook, and when does it start picking back up? This isn't the slowest time of the year. It's really just it's super competitive right now. So you have to be extremely proficient in your craft and knowing exactly all the tweaks, optimizations, data processing, and analyzing and changing and tweaking and understanding what changes to make, how to remove overlap, how to remove auction competition, and being super swift and nimble. We teach all those things in the class, which allows you to actually stay above. We have people doing incredible numbers right now, which Q4, you should be able to do incredible numbers because of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, the holidays. People are spending an enormous amount of money this quarter. So there's a ton of results up for grab, but a lot of advertisers on the flip side experience a whole lot of competition and a lot of diminished return. If anything, they struggle way more than they did before. And it's not because, that's just what happens. It's just given that you might have an offer that's not as competitive, or you might have an audience too small, or you might have restrictions on your account. There's a lot of things at play. It's just important to know which one it is and in analyzing and finding out what it is so you can fix it. We're coming up on about an hour here. So if anybody's really liked this content so far, please do give it a like. It does mean a lot to me. I do see all the comments and everything. So thank you so much. I do really appreciate all of you for coming here. I am just trying to, give as much value as possible. So I hope y'all are getting something from this. Chase, how do you onboard your clients to your business? We've built out processes and systems at our agency. We have a step-by-step protocol that we send to clients. They complete it online and they go through all the steps, and we get access to the creatives. We get access to their ad account, all of the assets we need, their website, everything that we'd ever need. They actually go through a little step-by-step process. And it's really simple. It's easy for them and it's easy for us because they can give us everything they need without having to ask us. And we can get everything we need without actually having to ask them. So it's really easy method for everybody, and people really love it. So I highly recommend creating workflows in your company and then figuring out a way to automate it online. That'll really help you scale and keep clients happy. How do you? That's the difference between making $1 and $1 million. Oh, so many people have said something about that line uh, on YouTube. That is funny. That's a good video. So yeah, thank you. Things I've been trying to contact any kind of support, but can't find any contact or chat. Yeah, a lot of advertisers don't have access to support. It's really dependent on location. It's dependent on trust. It's dependent on spend. It's depending on how long you've been running ads. There's so many variables. Eventually, one day you'll get it. We have people on our team where they don't have access, but they have access to our reps at our agency. So I mean, they have that, but sometimes the support chat is really important to have. The quickest way to do it is just, following the rules of Facebook, showing that you are doing the right things, implementing the trust, and just being, patient about it. It will come one day. Sometimes it's longer than others, but just hold in there and eventually you'll have it. Till then, I just, make sure that if you have a question and you can't figure out the answer online, be very careful about who you ask. There's not a lot of good information out there. So I just, highly recommend making sure that whoever you do ask that question to, if it's not somebody on the Facebook team, to make sure that you're asking somebody who does have extensive background with the company. What do you suggest doing when dealing with a lot of products, like at least 5,000 plus? Well, that is a lot of products. Yeah, I mean, that's common. Like companies like Neiman Marcus, Nike, I mean, they're going to have over 5,000 products. If anything, I think it's more exciting. The more products, the better, because now you get to leverage so much more retargeting. If you're a one product company and you're scaling it, great. But the quickest way to become extremely profitable is actually being really good at having nice products that your customers are going to want. Skincare brands do a really good job of this. They'll have beard care, they'll have face care, they'll have hair care, they'll have trimming utensils, they'll have a face mask, they'll have something crazy in there like a jetpack. I don't know. But there's stuff like that where you can take that information from those products and figure out what upsells, what cross sells are going to work best. Most people don't leverage upsells. Most people don't leverage cross sells as an ad. Some people do it on the one-click upsells with the app on e-commerce sites. That's normal. People do that. But if you want to take it to the next level, figuring out a strategy through your upsells, cross sells with your retargeting, it's the most lucrative way to actually expand your bottom line and actually make a profound impact, not on your customer base, because they're all being indoctrinated into your brand and actually becoming a successful business and people are loving it, your establishing community, and they have multiple products. But if you're just one product, that's totally fine too. And if you're ever thinking about taking it to the next level, I definitely think about, introducing another product that goes with it. So if you're a B2C with at least 5,000, to answer that question, retargeting is going to be the game. You find the one bestseller or the top 5 bestsellers, push those heavy on cold, but the rest of your budget needs to be all retargeting. I mean, finding out a way to spend so much on retargeting where you're just getting so many people to buy so many different products because they're in love with it. So once again, that is going to be the strategy. Highly recommend it. Why is potential reach unavailable for a lookalike, add to cart, and daily reaches estimated? It's going to be unavailable if you have more than if you have an exclusion in there, or if you have like a certain placement deselected or something with you have like 2 or 3 audiences that are different. It's going to happen. It's going to say unavailable because it can't calculate that, because Facebook doesn't want to disclose you finding out what audience size is from what audience exclusion, because otherwise advertisers would just data mine that with like tools. So they prevented that from happening a long time ago. I mean, years ago that was patched. So that's why. And then daily reach is estimated 1.1 to 3.1 and conversions is less than 10. Those aren't always accurate. I would only tell you to pay attention to those the moment you have, tens of thousands in spend on your account, or thousands of purchases or thousands of events, because that's when it becomes accurate, because those metrics are actually based off prior history. So like if you've been running a link clicks campaign for 1 year and then you decide to run a purchase campaign, it's going to say 0. And most people are like, 0? I don't want to run a campaign to get 0. So the best thing to do is just run it, because you're going to get more than one purchase. I can guarantee you that, because those estimated conversions are only based off prior account history. And if you've never ran a purchase campaign, no wonder it would say 0, because it has no way to base it off of any information. So fairly inaccurate in the beginning, but become very accurate later in the game. So definitely pay attention to them as you start to scale past a couple thousand sales because it's going to make a huge difference. And in the class, we walk through those things on each stage. If you're starting at zero and how to break through each barrier. It's not too hard to do. When you break it down fairly in steps, a lot of people do achieve a lot of success with it. We have really high success rates with that. How do companies scale to millions per year without exhausting their lookalike audiences? Yeah, this is great. We have so many companies breaking past the million point, they're actually selling past a million. It's not even like they're getting into the million bracket. It's actually like coasting right past a million. It's jumping to like the 3 to 5. Because if you're doing a couple 100,000 a year with your e-commerce store and you break a million, typically what we find is people in our class who break a million, they just skip right past like 1 and 2. They go like to 3 to 5 right away. And some people are scaling to 50K a day. It's insane. And it's purely because one, they do have different products. They don't have inventory issues. Most companies run into inventory issues. And they've had them in the beginning in the class, but they've learned, through people in our class. We had somebody run into an issue with getting candles supplied. And we had other people in our class that were also running ads for candles. And they're like, hey, I have a supplier that you can use. Like, we have people who work together and making sure that, you're figuring out other pieces of your business. So to scale past a million, you have to have a good foundation. And if you don't know how to structure the foundation, there's lots of people in our groups that would be happy to help you with it. And to really do it, you have to have a good product, a good creative, a good offer. And then you can get past a million alone with those things. But if you really want to do big numbers, you're going to have other, promotions, offers, and products as well, which are really cool. And it could be different colors. That's cool too. Okay, we're going to probably go for another 25 minutes here, or if my camera dies before then we'll cut it. So whichever comes first. So if you do like this video, please make sure to like it. Being in a couple Clubhouse chats with you, bro, your knowledge is 10/10. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm like 99% about to join your class. Hey, I'll tell you right now, here's the 1% you need. We'll make it happen. We'll get you results. We have, an outstanding amount of emphasis on making sure that we do it, and I'll personally be helping you. So if that's something you're, interested in, then we'll make it happen. And on the days that you don't have time to attend the calls, that's totally fine too, because we're going to send you the recordings, and we're also going to provide you with stuff that we don't release online. So yeah, definitely worth it. The best place to reach out to me, you could direct message me on Instagram if you have, specific questions there, or you can go to chasechappell.com/survey. And if you complete that form, you actually get on a call with Matt, which is on my team. He works right alongside me. He'll answer any and all questions you have without a doubt to help you understand, if this is the right fit for you. What's the best credit card for ad spend? I wouldn't say there's a best credit card. I'd say there's a best offer for advertising spend. If you use for instance, with Chase, Business Inc., you're going to get, points on your ad spend, a lot more points. There's a lot of companies like American Express offer really good points. If you're outside of the US, there's definitely companies that offer advertising points. So I would definitely opt for using a credit card that gives you bonus points on advertising, but I don't have a specific card to recommend. There's all kinds of cards that offer reward points on, advertising. So it's just best to really do a search, find out which one offers the highest, and see if you get approved. Is it ideal to advertise multiple products pages on this one pixel? Yeah, it's fine. As long as they're in the same category. Once again, going back to the skincare thing, if it's like skincare for face, eye balm, hair, that's fine because they're all related. But if it's like you're selling a toilet scrub next to a face mask, those aren't going to go well together at all. It actually might be a terrible thing to do. So I definitely wouldn't advertise those, polar opposite types of things where you don't want to put one or two next to either at all. So don't do that. Just make sure they're in the same category. Then if that is true, if you do have the same category, no worries at all. You can run as many different products you want in the same pixel. When you optimize for an ad set for value, we only recommend this if you have high average order values on a big spread. So for instance, if you have a one product and you find that a lot of people buy 3 of that product, or a lot of people buy 5 of that product, and a lot of people buy 1 of that product, you want a really widespread, like people who buy a lot of 1 of that, a lot of people who buy a lot of 3 of that, a lot of people who buy a lot of 5. Because then if you opt for value, it's going to find people who spend the most amount of money and buy that product the most amount of times. That's great. Now, if you have multiple products, that's a really good option to use for value, because then it's going to opt for going after the people who are going to spend the most amount on your site and buy the most amount of products. But it's only good if you know your margin. Okay. Because if you don't know your margin and you're opting for higher value, your higher priced items might actually have smaller margins. And it's not even a good thing to do that, because then you're just getting people to spend more money with you and you're actually losing a lot more because of it. But it's only okay to do that if you know that product is the gateway, then that's fine. Or if you know that product is, having a good positive impact on people, then, it's fine to do that just from an ethics standpoint, of course. Big fan. Thank you. Christian, how many people join your calls per week? We have anywhere between, sometimes we have 2 people, sometimes we have 12 people, any given call. You'd be surprised. A lot of times people get all of the information they need and execute, and are so busy executing and just generating results. Like, they take their business from doing 10,000 a month to doing 100,000 a month. The last thing they're thinking about is joining another call to figure out their Facebook ads. They're like, holy Chase, we just did so much money. Like, we're figuring out inventory, we're building out our business, and they might join the call to get advice for like the other side of the business after stuff like that happens. But since you have so much emphasis from, me actually putting focus on it, we can generate an incredible amount of results in a short time, because I'll be able to deliver exactly to, your specific needs. And usually you'll see a lot of, awesome growth. And sometimes it might be slower to start. It's not always a bunch of fairy tales and stuff. Sometimes it takes advertisers like, a slow ramp up period where we're like, we fixed this creative and now it's the audience. We fixed the audience and now it's, now they had inventory, and then we figured out what the inventory issue is. Oh, their bestseller only had 100 items versus their third bestseller had 10,000. Well, let's just focus on the third bestseller because that can actually scale. And stuff like that. So we have to work through it. There's even ways where we figure out how to like set up the credit on the ad spend where you're not even paying the same day your ad spend's being billed, but you're paying 30 days out, and then you have a card paying out 60. And so you literally have a 90-day runtime, so you can scale an enormous amount of spend, get the return back, and it doesn't even cost you anything because you're actually making all that back before you actually pay it back out to Facebook. So there's actually ways to get your time frame from like paying at the end of the month or every day. Some people are getting like pinged every day, like $50 a day from Facebook. It's absolutely insane. We try to make sure it's like runs at least 60 to 90 days out. There's ways to do it. And it allows you to actually have a long cash run rate. So people who are strapped in that sense, we teach those methods. So without a doubt, definitely a cool way to do it. What's your general scaling rule? Yeah, staying under 20%. That's the general scaling rule. If you're at 5 daily, 10 daily, it's okay to double. I wouldn't worry about doubling it in that case until you get past 50 a day. If you're on euros or pounds, same thing. Just following 10, 50. It's still same model. I know there's a little bit of a currency difference in terms of the value of it, but it all comes out to the same. So just keep it that way. Yeah, if you're at 8x at 20, double. Yeah, you could double. I mean, you might see it go down to 6.7 for like the first 2 days, but it'll probably jump back up after about 4 days. So I wouldn't worry there. Is it worth taking the course if you don't have any clients yet? Yeah, we have people who join the course that have 0 clients. We have people who join who have had 0 sales just because they're like, they're so optimistic and so bought into the fact that, we're going to deliver the right amount of value they need. Now, it's not only us. It does require, a lot of input on your part to actually go execute. But, I actually have all the recordings of when we had no clients and how we were actually gaining all of our clients in the beginning. It wasn't from advertising in a lot of cases because we just didn't have the funding to do so. So there was other methods we used. We had organic stuff. So there's a lot of cool strategies that just aren't released because, it's what we did back in the day. But it's exactly what we're teaching people to still do because that's what initially started it for us. And I would only recommend joining if you can, at least float the first month because that at least gives you 30 days to make it happen. And if you don't make it happen, then you just cancel. There's nothing to worry about. We're not going to come after you. We're good people. We're all people here. Your thoughts on mobile phone accessories? phenomenal niche. It's definitely overpopulated though, so you have to be really creative. You have to find a really best selling product, and that industry is always changing. So you got to be really careful at which you choose. Those stores can be extremely lucrative. You just got to be really good at understanding the right ways to do it. So it's definitely a fine balancing act there. Yeah, there you go, Brian. Yeah, Brian's in the class. There's usually 5 to 10 of us. Everyone seems to get there. Yeah, yeah, perfect, Brian. Thank you. Yeah, yeah, there you go. Calls are great. Thank you, Brian. Minimum actions to launch. Romeo, I think Facebook recommends 1,000 purchases before a lookalike. Yeah, that is the recommended. You could the next best is 300 plus, and then the next best after that is 100 plus. 100 plus is on the side of it's not always going to be best, but you can definitely do it after 100 plus, and it's some people see great results, so I wouldn't worry there. Facebook ad account restricted, any solutions? Yes, we've covered this topic about 4 or 5 times, but just verify your personal, your business, and domain, pixel, all that. That'll really help. Thanks, Chase. See you early 2021. Yeah, absolutely. If you're on, yep, per day and you double it, yeah. Do you leave it but before doubling it again? I don't think I understand that question. If you're on 20 euros per day and you double it, how long? Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So 48 hours to at least 4 days. Give it some time, let it run. Um, that way it actually works. Cool. Looks like we powered through a lot of questions here. If there are any other questions at all, feel free to ask. We're going to wrap it up in about 14 minutes, or if my camera dies, we'll wrap it up before then. But if there's no other questions in the next 2 minutes, we can wrap it up there too. But once again, lots of great comments here. I mean, this is really exciting. I'm really excited with all of you who are asking questions. It's super cool to see, all these different businesses and helping you all out. Uh, you know, it's incredible to see the growth and just, the things that happen personally in all of our lives from stuff like this. So it's always really cool to see. So I'm always happy to hear about, wins and stuff. So feel free to share. I guess it's a good time to let y'all know how y'all can find other things from this content. If you like YouTube, we're not only a one platform show. We have a TikTok series that's totally separate from YouTube. YouTube's long form content for us, but if you go to our TikTok, you're gonna get like learnings in like 15 seconds. It's like incredibly fast. It's probably such a big pace difference. You might not even like it compared to YouTube. So, but that is one way. If you're just in your spare time want to get quick information and quick tips, that's one way to do it. We have Instagram Reels. That's really fast as well. IG. It's just Chase Chappell. If you just search my name, there's a lot of platforms we're on. Any experience with scaling custom made products, which are a bit trickier? No inventory. Yeah. We have people who sell boutique clothing and they run out of inventory rather quickly because it's boutique. They sell it and then they have to go on to the next product, and they're scaling. They're doing they've gotten up to over 500 daily. So I mean that is really phenomenal numbers for something where you only have a couple of items of each thing. So the thing is you have to figure out a way to output your creatives as fast as you're able to sell them. So if you're able to pump those things out daily, just make sure you have an insane amount of creatives coming. They're putting out creatives daily. We do it with companies who are in leather goods. They do handcrafted leather. We have people who are from Etsy who do like the handmade and stuff like that. We have people who wrap chargers, and they were on like the Today Show because they were selling over 100,000 of these things. And it's like a mother doing these things, and it was like this big story. And I was like incredibly happy to see that they were on the Today Show, all because of this. Through Facebook ads. So yeah, absolutely. You can, scale up handcraft. It's just a matter of your output. If you can put out the creatives, get the products out fast enough, you're going to do extremely well. Hi, Chase. You have a product with $100 profit margin. How much would you spend on an ad set? Okay. This question is always a loaded one. It has so many different answers and it's so dependent on what you want, right? Some people are fine with losing money on it to eventually make money. You take like companies like that are really interested in aggressive expansion. They're willing to go deep in the hole just to actually climb really high to the sky afterwards. I mean, if you look at these companies, they'll go a long time without ever making profit. Now you have to have the money to do it, and it's a good strategy if you're actually looking for an ambitious growth plan. Um, Profit means different to everybody. It just depends on how much you want out of it. I mean, to us, we were fine with breaking even just to get our word out there and just spread the value and let people know in the space. And then, eventually what you need to do is just start raising your standard a little bit every day forward. If you're breaking even, try to get it down to, $90 where you're getting a $10 profit, then try to get it to $80, $20, and just keep pushing that bar a little bit every single day until you're at a point where you're happy. If you're happy with it, don't push it. Just scale what you're happy with. Uh, Find your happy point. If you're happy with 60, if you're happy with $40 profit, heck, if $10 of profit is going to make you smile, make yourself smile, and no need to go any further than that. Just do what it's actually going to make you happy and proud. What's up, Chase? I notice whenever I scale my amazing campaigns at higher budgets, I notice a huge dip. Yeah, that's typically from overscaling. If you have an audience size that's too small and you scale too fast, that'll do it. If you have overlap and you scale too fast, that'll do it. If you have too much auction competition, that'll do it. Use the inspect tool, inspect it, figure out what's the issue before you scale. The other thing is keeping it under 20%. That'll fix it. Does ROAS matter more than purchases? That's a good question. Once again, that's also dependent on what you're looking for. I guess ROAS, if you know your break-even ROAS, that would be important to note. We look more at ROAS in most cases than purchases because that's how, a lot of times you can calculate your margin. But we also look at purchases to know what we're going to make cuts on. Like we don't go and make audience cuts or ad cuts based off ROAS alone. We look at multiple metrics in that case. We look at a lot of factors to make a decision because we need to make the most informed decision to make sure we don't cut an opportunity that could have really resulted in success. And because we also want to make sure that we cut the right ad that's actually resulting in a drop off. We find times where there's ads or audiences that when we remove, you would actually see a huge increase in your return on ad spend. We've seen accounts go from 3 to 5, literally from like spending 15 seconds of just cutting 2 things, and then the ROAS maintains 2x higher than where it was. It's crazy that there's little things in people's accounts that are just so overlooked and have such a big impact on your account. You'd be amazed to see at the things we find just that are like 1 or 2 click edits that people are like, they're emotionally overwhelmed from how much their results change after just a few tweaks. They're like, how in the world did I never catch this? It happens all the time. I'm telling you, you just got to look and analyze the data. If you optimize for value, you can't check for audience competition or overlap. Is there any other way to check those stats? So the quickest way to do it, if you're doing value, is to keep your best way to get around it is making sure that your audiences are consolidated in that case. So you don't have to worry about the auction overlap, and then your auction competition should go down just as a given. And if you have a creatives going in, that'll really mitigate any and all risk in that case. We got about 8 minutes here before we wrap up. Is it still good to still run interest targeting campaigns even if your lookalike audiences are doing really well? So when we're looking at data, we segment things into buckets. We use the reporting tool. We segment interest audiences and lookalikes. We compare them on a bar chart and see what the ROAS, what the purchases, and the spend are. Three bars against 3 bars. Interest, and then actually focusing on lookalikes. And then you have ad spend, you have purchases, and then you have return on ad spend. Those 3, and then the same thing over here. Whichever ones have more purchases, fewer spend, and better ROAS is the one you're going to opt for. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter about however many audiences are working in interest. If your lookalikes are predominantly winning, that's what you go with. All right. Feel like my account is underreporting. When ads are off, sales drop to next to nothing. But when ads are on, I see lots of sales. Facebook ad account doesn't report a lot of them. Yeah, there's a huge amount of sales that never get reported to ad accounts. 1, it's attribution, and 2, it could be because of your email list. It could be because people are searching. We just had a guy who did 5,500 purchases in like the last 7 days, and only 4,800 of them were tracked. And he was like, look, I've never ran ads on any platform. I don't run any emails. I don't have any SEO. How in the world is there this much of a discrepancy when I know it's all from the Facebook ads? And it's purely just because of an attribution thing. A lot of times people will still do a search after they see an ad and go and purchase. The quickest way to get your one-to-one match rates correct are by adjusting your windows for attribution, reporting by looking at your 1 day, 7 day, and 28 day windows, and then thirdly, just using a tracking code to fix it all. There's tracking codes out there that'll just get you a one-to-one always. UTMs, that's the fourth. We highly recommend URLs and UTM parameters. That's a game changer. It's old school targeting, tracking, but it's been around for a long time, but still, once again, highly underutilized, and most people don't know how to implement it. If you go and implement the UTMs and URL parameters, you're going to see where those people are coming from and who's making purchases. So that helps a lot. Hi, Chase. What metrics do you look at when analyzing data? We look at a lot of metrics because no one metric is the defining metric. There's going to be multiple primary metrics we look at. We teach that in the class, how to find your golden metrics to find and actually understand and truly use as a tool. We don't really look at add to carts. We don't look at link clicks. We don't look at click-through rates. I know a lot of people do it, and it's not a bad thing to look at those. We focus more on, your metrics that are moving the bar, like the audiences, the actual impression reach ratios, the overlaps, the auctions, the purchases, ROAS, looking at where the drop off might be happening. Would be the only case where we actually look at, if there's, thousands upon thousands of added cards, but that would be more on the e-commerce side where we look at a metric like that to identify if there is an issue. If my CPAs are too high, should I try cost cap? No, it won't work. Cost cap or manual bidding is only good whenever you have really great metrics that you love. That's when it's great. If you have metrics you don't like, it's not going to work at all. You might actually spend nothing. You might get one purchase and spend $5 and never see that thing spend another dollar of yours ever again because it just doesn't think it can get it. So that method is only good to use whenever you have phenomenal results. The best way to get your CPAs lower is just to find, a really good offer, really good creative, and push it, in a way that's going to get a lot of good results. If there are any other questions, go ahead and ask now. If not, we're going to be wrapping up here in the next couple of minutes. Looks like the sun's starting to beat us down here with the blinds again. By the way, if you like this video, please do so. I really appreciate it. If you found any value at all, it does help out. Do you teach UTM setup in the Facebook ads masterclass? Absolutely. We cover UTMs. We cover URL parameters. We have very long, extensive tutorial videos covering those. We go in depth on that. Super technical stuff, but it's stepped out so that way you can understand it, use it, and make actual. That's gonna if you're looking for a competitive advantage, that's one of those things that gets you there. I'm not gonna say that's the only thing that gives you a big advantage, but that will help you out tremendously in being able to really get a good gain on results. Because you can segment a lot of information with that. You can use, it opens up a lot of doors. So yes, yeah, definitely do teach that. Should you scale CBOs through duplication and increasing budget? Should you scale? No, we don't duplicate. Never. It depends on how you approach duplicating. In some cases, it makes sense, but usually it's just about scaling spend. Increasing budget, yeah, vertically. Yep, as long as you increase your budget vertically, staying under 20%, that'll be good. All right, that'll probably be the last question we take. Once again, I was saying earlier, if we're going to stop here at about 1:30 in, or if the camera dies prior to that, that's when we're going to cut the call. It looks like the camera beat it just shortly, about 1:40 before. But that's okay. We covered a lot. So yeah, once again, if y'all are looking for a way to get a lot more information on this, make sure to, subscribe here, like the content. And if you're really looking to go, to next level, absolutely go to chasechappell.com/survey and speak with somebody on the team. If you already know, just based off what you've been seeing from our content, you're like, yeah, I definitely want to get into this. Just go ahead and make the, process the payment into the class. You'll get access to everything you need. It's very self-explanatory. It shows you the steps on how to join the calls. Awesome, everybody. I appreciate it so much. Y'all are so nice. I see your comments. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I love all of you just as much as y'all are telling me as well. So thank you so much once again. Y'all are super cool. And I wish all of you a ton of success and happy holidays as well. Thanks, everybody. Take care.